Yeah, that's right. I'm dancing. I'm dancing in my chair because that's about the only kind of dancing I can do anymore because, ALS. Couldn't dance much before this either, so there's not much I can say about that. Welcome to Dying Out Loud. It is Tuesday, December 26th, 2023, and I'm glad you're here. And I wanted to take a minute and talk about this date, December 26th, because it is my spiritual rebirth day. Yeah. 50 years ago today, I was reborn. What's that, you might be asking? Reborn? Sounds pretty weird. Not if you're an evangelical Christian. It is the most important day in life. You are born again that day. Your spirit goes from death to life, and you become a new creature. And that's what I thought happened to me 50 years ago. And for most of my adult life, probably 37, 38 years, I looked upon that day as the most significant day of my life. It was the day after Christmas. 50 years ago, I went into a youth meeting with a bunch of exuberant, spirit filled young people and became born again and filled with the Holy Spirit. And my life changed. At the time, and for many years afterward, I thought it changed for the better. And so I would mark that day each year. I would reflect on the year that had just finished or was finishing, and look upon the year to come and reflect upon what the Lord had done and what he was going to do and all those things. And I always thought it was just a really big deal. And I would journal. Yeah, I remember that. And anyway, upon my deconversion about a dozen years ago, I've looked back on that day a lot differently. And so I'm looking back on it from today's perspective. And I'm not quite as excited about that day as I used to be. And for this reason, because I was preparing to go to college. I was just out of high school a few months and was planning to become a sports writer, and had desires to be a writer, and figured I would become that. And all that changed that night 50 years ago tonight. And I ditched my plans to go to college because Jesus was going to return soon, and I needed to be reaching the lost and saving people because Jesus was going to come back any day, and he still is, by the way. He's going to come back any day now. 50 years later, he's about to return. He's um, he's not quick about that stuff, but nonetheless, I kind of look back now on that, and I've always wondered what would have happened if I hadn't made that choice. If I would have not gone to that thing and had not become born again and gone on the path that I figured I was going to go on, because I look back now and feel like um, Jesus kind of took me away, stole my life, if you were. Jesus interrupted, to use a phrase that Bart Ehrman used for one of his books. Jesus kind of interrupted my life. I mean, I let him. I did it willingly. He didn't coerce me. And Jesus didn't do it. My idea of Jesus and my thoughts of what I should be doing with my life interrupted my life. And I kind of regret it now. Um, Not in a painful way. I don't live in regret. That's a little bit too costly of an emotion. But all that to say that we can all look at um, choices we've made in ways that we can we can think of regretfully. And I encourage you not to do that, because I don't really do that. I look back and I think, okay, my life would have been different, but I still am thankful for a lot of the things that have come from my life. And here I am all these years later. Um, I was 18 years old at the time. Not going to tell you how old I am, so you can do the math. 50 plus 18. Um, and here I am, um, on the line with a show called Dying Out Loud. because of the things that have happened since then, getting diagnosed with ALS and starting to talk about living and dying with a terminal disease and that kind of thing. So I just want to take a minute tonight and reflect on what this date has always meant to me and what it means now, which is you can't go back and undo what you did. You can't get back yesterday, and we don't know what tomorrow has. And we may not even get tomorrow, but we have today. And if you know anything about what I talk about, that is what counts. Living today, living now. Carpeing the fucking diem, as my shirt says, which you can get on on my merch at daveoutloud.org. There's a merch link. Shameless plug. I'm just shameless the day after Christmas. And but live in the moment, look for the moments, and grab what life has right now. So that's enough of that. I just want to take a minute to reflect on that, and now I want to bring on my good friend, Footless Joe, my co-host. And hello, Joe. How are you?
Well, wonderful.
You
I'm
look
so happy to
so
be back
you
on your
look so
show.
Christmassy. I love it.
I know it's the day after Christmas, but I didn't feel Christmassy enough. Like, it was so busy in the
Good.
weeks leading up to it, life's so different that I was like, "Nah, we're just gonna go all out tonight." Oh, I didn't wear Christmas
Good.
earrings. We've done that.
Oh well. Well, thank you for keeping that Christmas spirit alive for us. How was
Absolutely.
your Christmas?
Happy
Was
to.
it good? Was your
It
Christmas
was. It
good?
was, much quieter than usual. My
Yeah.
family was dealing with some illnesses, nothing serious. They'll be just fine, but there's, like, a nasty respiratory thing going around Colorado right now. I've escaped it so
Mhm.
far, so yeah, so we all just took it pretty easy.
Well, what are your thoughts on my rebirth day? I know you used to have one too, right?
I did. I never knew the date. So, because I was kind of like I was born into Christianity, a much less severe version of it, right? Like, it was more like the going to church on Sunday, Christmas is for Jesus, but that's pretty much it. Like, I was the one who really took religion to the next level as I became a teenager and a young adult. But I remember I was baptized at like 12, I think, because it was like the thing to do.
Yeah.
But I have some good friends who still actively celebrate their spiritual birthdays. It still holds a lot of meaning for them. It's so interesting when we run into those anniversaries where so much has changed, right? Where the emotion around it
Mhm.
is so different. What do you feel on days like today? Is it just kind of like oh, that used to be something? Or is there any kind of like bittersweet to it for you?
Um, it's not bittersweet. It's still I still look back, especially I mean, if anybody that's watching has read my book, my memoir, I talk about, those experiences early in my life. And I look back, like I said in the opening, and wonder what my life how different would it have been if I'd have taken that
Yeah.
different road, so to speak. Two roads diverge in the middle of a wood. Um, so I look back in the last some years, since I've deconverted, I don't even think of it at all. It doesn't,
Yeah.
just it passes me by completely. But this year, for some reason, maybe because it's the 50-year
That's a big
anniversary.
anniversary.
God, that's a lot of years. How did that happen?
Right?
So this year seemed to catch me a little bit more than most
Yes.
do, but I don't attach any significance to it. It just
Yeah.
happened to be the date that I succumbed to the pressure, the peer pressure, and I was a young, vulnerable young man with a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. And somebody came along with an answer, and there was a lot of young people excited about that answer, and so I jumped right in, and it just swept me up. And people don't realize how intoxicating the Jesus movement was.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
in the early 70s, and if you do some research, Jesus was everywhere. Jesus Christ, superstar, Godspell. The Doobie Brothers was singing about him. He was on the cover of Time magazine. I mean, it was a thing, and it was easy to get swept up in that, and a lot of us did. And so that's just the direction my life took, and here I am, all these years later. My brother did it
I
about a year
remember. Oh, go
before
ahead.
me, but he stayed in it, and I got out of it. So here we are.
So it's like his 51st this year. Yeah. I
Yeah, yeah,
remember, I was, like, saved from a very young age, but I remember every time I would go to youth group conferences or any big emotional day at church when they were really amping up, like, the bass and all of that, and they do the altar calls,
yeah,
like, well into
yeah.
my 20s even, I'd be like, "Should I go up? Like, did it really count?" Even though my life was entirely dedicated to this, to, like, my relationship with Jesus and my faith, I still remember feeling so guilty every single time and being like, "I should go up again." Just to be sure.
Well, that's what a lot of people did. They get moved
Yeah,
by the music. They get caught up in that, and if you're already saved, you can go up and rededicate yourself. That's a big thing
exactly.
that a lot of them
Yes.
do, yeah. So, there's
Yes.
always some step more that you can take, because
Yeah.
God
It's
wants
just
God wants more from us, always more.
he really wants you to go up to the front of the church. Come on, come on.
Do something. Go up there and do something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
Oh, the puppies are
I,
talking in the background. Apologies.
they're excited. They're excited about Christmas. And anyway, this is a call-in show, as you know. Every show on the line is. The number is 720-619-2288, or the web link in the description, if you're online. And let's get to a call. What do you say, Joe?
I think that's a great idea.
We've got,
Let's get the first one.
let's talk to Holly, she,
Holly,
her, in
she, her,
Oklahoma. Hey,
in
Holly.
Oklahoma. Hey, Holly.
Hi.
Hey, we've got her.
Hey,
The echo.
thank you both.
Yeah, go.
Thank you both so much. I am a lifetime atheist. I did not have to go through, the problematic conversion or anything. And yet I find you so inspiring because, the Christians who imagine that it's difficult to look death in the face, they're right about me. I have a real hard time with it. Now that I've gotten into the upper age range, 68, I'm hearing that Grim Reaper's footsteps on that
Mhm.
street out there getting ever nearer. And
Yeah.
I do find it a big challenge, a real big challenge. So I really appreciate what you do. Um,
Thank you.
Thank you.
it's yeah, I just, it's the thing of you don't want to leave the party, I don't want to leave this party, I want, I find myself constantly wishing, can't we have a 200-year lifespan or maybe 300, that kind of thing. And anyway, over the past few days, we've been doing what a lot of Christmas season people do. We've been, binging on animation shorts and that kind of thing. And I ran across one that I found to be quite beautiful about death. And I wanted to encourage everybody to look it up, try it out. It's a French animation called Death of the Lady When the Grim Reaper Knocks. It's easy to find. It's, I think, about a 10-minute. And I found it quite inspiring, quite beautiful. It has a lot to say about death and our relationship with our animals, our pets and et cetera. And the interesting thing to me is the reaction I got when I shared it with family members. I sent the link to them and said, "Hey, watch this. It's going to make you laugh and make you cry and make you think," the usual thing. And
Yeah.
instead of that, my aunt, I'll call her Aunt Dolly. That's not her real name. But instead of that, what I got from her was she splashed cold water in my face and called it a depressing, sad, and emotionally disturbing film. And would I please never send her anything that dark ever again? And another family member all he could say about it was, well, somebody definitely put a lot of work into the making of that French film. Dark humor. And I I I just was shocked and amazed that they had such a negative. To me, this film is a lighthearted almost treatment of death, and it almost humanizes the Grim Reaper. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to, let it, I don't want to. What's the word where you're telling the end
Spoil it.
before? I don't want
Spoil
to
it.
tell too. Thank you. I don't want
Yeah.
to spoil it, but I would
Yeah.
definitely encourage everybody to watch it. And one thing I can say, I think the reason my aunt had such a terrible reaction is because she, it deals a lot with people and their relationship with their animals, and in particular a dog in this film. And she experienced the loss of her good, sweet dog like 20 years ago. And she has never forgiven herself. And in all those 20 years, she's never forgiven herself for not managing it better.
Oh,
And she
gosh.
feels like she shouldn't have taken him in to the vet as soon as she did. And she remembers him looking up at her with his face like, why have you abandoned me? And why have you done this? And she has tortured herself for all these years.
hmm
And I think that's why she reacted so poorly to this film. And it's one of those, you're always talking about regret and what a negative thing that is to put yourself through. And I want to say to her, and I apologize to her. I gave her basically a fake apology. I said, oh, I should have known not to send that to you. I should have known, that you would still be suffering over your dog. When what I really think in my own head is, my God, you still can't let it go after all this time. And just to think of all the rescue dogs she could have, helped in all those years. And instead, she's insisted on obsessing about the mistakes she made when she took her dog in to put it down,
Mm.
and that's just so sad to me. And
Hey, Holly, I think
anyway.
you've got
Holly, I
the
think
sh-
you've got this.
turn the
Oh.
sound off on
Turn
whatever
the sound
you're
off
watching.
on whatever you're watching.
Oh, well, actually, we
Yeah.
already thought we did.
We're not watching anything.
We're not watching it. Sorry.
Oh, okay. There's
I'm
an echo,
doing
it
this.
seems like.
I'm doing this on a device, a Microsoft Surface, and I was worried that might not be the best. Maybe I'm too close. I don't know. Sorry about that. Is that better?
I
I'm
don't
kind of holding
know.
it further
Yeah,
away
I
from
don't
me.
know.
Your sound
No?
is
Can you
fine.
still?
Your sound is fine.
We're getting an echo.
we're
Everything we
getting an
say is
echo.
echoing
Everything we
back to
say
us.
is echoing back to us.
Oh, well, maybe I should try
So
it again sometime on a phone instead of this. I don't do this normally. I don't call in. So
Well, that's fine.
Well, that's fine.
They get to hear it twice.
They get to hear it twice.
I mainly just wanted to put in a plug for that. To me, the film is a masterpiece. It's a short masterpiece that really says a lot about death and how you can view it as a friend, which it is in its own way. It's a friend, but we humans have a hard time getting there, and I'm included. I have a hard time getting there, but I'm trying. So,
More so than me.
my husband is a recovering Lutheran, and he has more
Nice.
peace with death than I do. I keep rebelling and saying, no, I can't leave this party.
Yeah,
That's
I hear
that's
you.
definitely a film I'm gonna have to check
No.
out.
Definitely a film I have to check out.
It's a wonderful
Well,
film. I tell you
what
it's
we'll
a
do,
wonderful
Holly.
film.
I tell you what we'll do, Holly.
We'll talk a little bit about
We'll talk a
all
little bit
this
about
after you hang up,
all
and
this
there won't be an
after you
echo.
hang
How's
up,
that?
and there won't be an echo. How's that?
That sounds good. I will let you go then, and thank you very much.
All right. That's better. Thank you, Holly. You're probably still listening, so we'll talk as though you're still on the line with us. How's that?
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
yes, the whole idea about death, and she actually sent me that film, and so it's about an 8-minute short film. It's animated. It's really pretty. It's beautiful and sweet and poignant, and it deals with our approach to death. And I think she's right on in that um, we avoid it at all costs,
Mhm.
um, and act as though it's something that we can avoid. And it's not. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us and all of our pets. And I know
Yeah.
I know, Joe, you're a dog person. We can see them in the background there, and I'm sure you've had to
Yeah,
put them down.
I had to, the same year that I got divorced, I had to put down 3 dogs that were, like, 2 of them I'd had for 12 years, 1 was a 10-month-old puppy, and so I got a crash course in pets passing away and having to make those decisions. I know how hard that is. And it is I mean, it's different coming to terms with the death of animals than it is about your own or like humans that you love. But it's definitely a big processing of emotions. And I understand why some people aren't ever able to quite get, to open that door again in their hearts, for another animal. And that's everyone's personal choice. But I kinda took it the opposite direction, and I house as many animals as I can.
Well, I see that. So, and I
Yeah,
think
they're too big for me.
Holly's point about her aunt and her reaction to the video that she sent her
Mhm.
was that she was feeling guilty for somehow not doing enough for the pet that she lost. And yes, I think rather than um, mourn that, turn that mourning into getting others. There's other
Yeah.
rescues that you can save and that you can have and you can enjoy that experience again instead of spending the rest of your life being sad about the one that you did. And I think that's the
I
same with anything. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Dave, but an interesting experience I had with all of that was, the 10-month-old puppy that I had. His name was Sully. He was the sweetest little black and white puppy, but when I adopted him, I was aware that he had a bad heart condition that he might only have, a couple years kinda thing, and so I knew I was sort of taking on the emotional work of that and also sort of the financial obligation and all of that. But he only made it 10 months, but it was so interesting to me because obviously I've always known the dogs that I have are gonna die, right? Like, that's a conscious thought, but I never really wanted to
Hmm.
confront that until I got him, and understanding that every single day with him, I was like, "I'm gonna make this the best day for this puppy because he only has a couple months left," and when he passed away, it was very painful, but there wasn't all those additional emotions because I think I was able to actually accept the fact with him that, like, make every day the best, you know? He doesn't have long, so okay, and, it was different it was different than, losing dogs who were even very old because I was like, "No, this isn't supposed to happen," right? Yeah, so it was different having something that I very tangibly knew had a short amount of time. I think that was a good reminder for me, and I look back on that a lot with all of my relationships, pet or otherwise.
Yeah, because death is the same whether it's a human relationship or a pet relationship or a friend or a family member. I think the sooner we come to terms with the reality that it's going to happen to
Yeah.
all of us. That's what Holly's point was. As she gets older, she hears the footsteps of the Grim Reaper outside a little
Yeah.
closer, and that is what happens when we do get older. But I think whatever our age is, we have to realize this is something that's going to happen. It's there's two things we all have in common. Everyone watching this, everyone you see in the course of a day, there's two things we have in common, and probably only two things. One is we've all been born, and two is we're all going to die.
Yeah.
That's it. So what we do between those two events is called life, and it's incumbent upon us to make the most of that and get everything we can out of it. And if that's a pet, then like you said, enjoy the moments, whether you see the end encroaching or whether you don't see it, whether you've got a little puppy or whether
Yeah.
you're young like you are or you're old like me with a terminal illness, it's still about making the most of the moments and not letting life slip past us and not avoiding death, but embracing life. It's not about staying alive, it's
Yeah.
about living. Yeah.
And carpeing the fucking diem, as the shirt that I
Yes.
just ordered as we started the show says at
Uh,
davewarnock.org. I think that's what it is.
DaveOutloud.org.
Dave out loud. I totally gave the wrong address, guys.
That's okay. Now, maybe somebody will put it in the chat if you are wanting to get stuff like that. But and speaking of that, speaking of merch, before I forget to do my job here, Jimmy's going to fire me if I don't do better at stuff like this.
He
Um,
will. It's true.
the Christmas mugs. There's a mug right there. Footless Joe's showing you what a mug looks like. But we have merch on the line. The line merch. It's called. You can find it at linemerch.com. Jimmy's mug says, "I Jimmy myself on Xmas." I
Because
think he
his would
jimmies
say
himself.
that.
His would. I think he jimmies himself more often than just Xmas, but we're just not going to talk about that. My mug is a design that Jimmy made because he likes to mock me because I have ALS and I'm dying, and so his favorite thing to do is to mock that because he's cruel like that. I mean, he's not here to defend himself, so I can ruthlessly
Even
shame
better.
him. Yeah, and but my mug says I drew a pretty flower because I can't draw a pretty flower with my hands being what they are. So Jimmy did it for me. So if you go to linemerch.com to order your mug, get one of mine because there's this little contest going that I don't know what we win if we win it because nobody's going to win it because Forrest is so far ahead. I hate him. Don't you, Joe? Don't you hate Forrest?
Unless unless everybody goes and buys one of Dave's mugs right now and somehow we pull ahead. I got to work on my sales tactic, but I think it's getting a little bit
Yeah.
better, Dave.
Me too. I'm not good at this kind of stuff, but go and support the line. And other ways you can support us, as you know, patreon.com/call the line. And then also our ever popular super chats, which is fun to say. Super chats.
It is fun to say.
Every super chat of $5 or more, Footless Joe and I will read at the end of the show. You can add a comment with it. You can ask a question. We'll do our best to answer that. If you would rather ask a question or make a comment on the phone, you can do that by calling 720-619-2288. And also, before I forget, this schedule coming up, we've got the the Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and Jimmy Snow tomorrow night. Thursday is the Transatlantic Call-In Show with Arden and Stephanie Helms. Sunday is the Sunday Show with Jimmy and Matt, and that may not happen because it's New Year's Eve, I was told. So tune in to see the updated schedule because the holiday
I will
season.
also add in with the super chats in particular. For anyone who doesn't know, I am missing a leg. It came off a couple years ago. I am looking for it to grow back, and with every super chat of $5 or more, there is a chance. Scientists have said there is a chance that it could grow back a half an inch each time. So help me out here, guys. Send in those super chats.
You know what? With God, all things are possible, is what I used to
That's
say.
right.
And there was a thing back in the day when I was a little Jesus freak running around, and we believed that God healed people, and we would pray. And the
Same.
one of the more popular things that we would pray for back then is for legs to be lengthened, and we
Oh
would
my
see it
god,
happen.
yes.
Yeah?
Yes. I was involved in so many of those prayers. I also had it done on me.
Yeah, me too. And you sit
Mhm.
down and you put your legs out in front of you, and wouldn't you know it, one was shorter than the other. And as they prayed for you, you could see it move. It doesn't mean that we weren't shifting in our chair subconsciously or consciously to make it happen. It was so
Do you
weird. It
know
was
do you
so
know what the
weird.
trick with that is?
What?
What a lot of people would do, now I think sometimes this is just well-intentioned people, in, like, church
Yeah, yeah,
basements
yeah.
praying for each other, but the people who, like, do it, oftentimes when they're, like, pulling your leg, right, they just pull on the bottom of the shoe a little bit, and so then it looks like it matches. Simple.
Yep. Yep. Same with being slain of the spirit. They put their hand on your forehead and gently push you, or in the case of some friends I have, push you hard enough to push you down
Yeah.
because they want to they want to see you fall under the spirit. Oh God, were those
Just
crazy
shoving
times.
people to the ground, just some
Yeah,
judo in
yeah,
church.
yeah. Just shove them to the ground, get them down, whatever way you have to. Oh my God, I just shake my head at that stuff.
'Yeah, me too.
50 years ago today, I got into that nonsense. Let's, uh,
Yeah.
let's get off let's get off of this and talk to DeAndre DeAndre, he, him in, Louisiana? Did I say your name right? You're on the line with Dave and Joe?
Oh, yes. Hello.
Hello, did I say your name right? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, you did. It's fine.
Okay, cool. What's on your mind tonight?
Okay, this is kind of, I guess, a follow up from me previously calling on the line last week with Matt. He helped me to really see that a lot of my beliefs were crazy in a sense, and I've been trying to ever since then I've been trying to talk it out with my friends and people who also believe it, and just really try to get out of that way of thinking. But I've been slow to it because if I do this, what if I lose the people close to me? What if I lose them as friends?
Mm.
I don't know if I could live with that. I don't know if I can handle that in a sense.
Hmm. Well, that's a very legitimate question and a very legitimate fear.
Yeah.
Um, because you probably will lose a good number of them. Um, I know I did. And when I came to the conclusion that my beliefs were not founded on anything, any kind of evidence, when there was no support for them, when I came to the conclusion that what I had believed, in my case, for 3.5 decades was not true. I couldn't continue to maintain that belief. I had to let it go, and I had to accept whatever came with that. And when I talk to my friends about it, and especially when I talk to my family members about it, many of them, including my two daughters, didn't want to continue to do life with me. It cost me a lot, is what I'm trying to say. So I hate to say that to you. Now, I've also got good friends that have maintained a friendship with me, even though they believe in God and I don't. They maintain a faith in Jesus, and I moved on from it. And I consider them really good friends because they accept me for who I am, even though I changed my mind about something really significant. But the problem with all of that, as hard as that is, DeAndre, I have to go with what's true. At least what I consider most likely to be true. And if you say that Matt helped you see that some of your ideas didn't have substance behind them, and Matt's really good at that. He's been doing it a long time. No one, Matt or me or Joe or anybody, wouldn't want to do that to you to take something away from you, like
Mhm.
friends or family or support or relationships. We hate that that's part of it. I really do. And I would never do something that would cost you something like that. But the more important element to me is I want to believe what's true. Or as Matt has said, I want to believe as many things that are true and believe as few things that are not true as possible. I want to know what's right. I don't want to just hang on to something because it makes me feel good or because I've always had it. I want to be, I want to, I want to settle on the side of truth, at least as far as I can determine it. And I appreciate the fact that you're trying to do that because I'm going to tell you, man, it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to admit that I was wrong about something, especially something that's a deeply held belief, as they like to say, something that we're firmly entrenched within. To come to a place to say, "Wait a minute, I was wrong." That takes a lot of courage to say we're wrong, especially when it may cost you something. So that's Joe. I know you've done the same thing, and I think we've talked about that. It
Yeah.
cost you some friends too.
Yeah, DeAndre, I'm really glad you called in, and I imagine this has been a pretty, I would guess, a difficult week considering all of those things. It is so hard sitting in that position and not knowing, like looking at the people you love and being worried that they're gonna turn their back on you, hate you, not associate with you, look at you differently. I think the one thing that I would add is I've spent many years of my life not being honest with people around me about who I actually was or where I actually was, for a variety of fears, whether it was around, religion or faith or anything. And it led to me feeling so alienated and disconnected and weird and broken and outcast, even though there were people who wanted to love me. As I began a process of being honest with the people around me, letting them see who I really am, what I really think, what I really believe, my group around me may have thinned out a tiny bit. Actually, it's thinned out more than a tiny bit, but the
Yeah.
connection that I feel and the depth of those relationships are so much more rewarding. And also, what you said about not being sure if you can handle it, I totally get that. And I think it's important to sometimes build safety nets, right? Like, you don't have to have all these conversations right away with people unless you want to, in which case, absolutely go for it. But if it's, if it's a process that takes you a little while, that's okay too. And I would say just make sure you're finding support along the way, whether it's, shows like this, support groups, online, in real life, trying out new things and kind of building out your support system, because there will be people there for you. And the depth of connection, if you choose to be honest with those around you, is so worth the honesty, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But it is a
What do you
very
think, DeAndre?
difficult place to be in.
Okay, thank you. That really helped me a little bit. And like you said, I can just, well, with these type of beliefs, it's not. I don't think I can really build a safety net with it. It's more like I have to kind of rip the Band-Aid off
Got it. Yeah,
because
that makes sense too.
it's yeah, because they're pretty big conspiracy theorists.
Mm.
Oh, got it.
So
Okay, understood.
yeah, so it's
Yeah,
not like I'm
Yeah.
leaving church. It's not like I'm just leaving a church or just a specific religion. I'm leaving like a group of friends who legitimately believe this conspiracy theory, and it makes up a good point of their day just talking about it.
got it. Okay, right.
Yeah. Yeah. We're living in a different climate than we were back in 2011, 2010 when I was deconstructing. This is a different world that we're in with the conspiracy. stuff going on. It's kind of, the stakes are a little higher in a lot of ways because of a lot of the stuff that's floating around out there. Christian nationalism is on the rise. It wasn't as big a deal back then. But yeah, once you start peeling back the layers there and seeing what's underneath it, DeAndre, it's going to be hard to put that genie back in the
Yeah.
bottle. And I think you
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, you're gonna. You've started opening up some doors where that stuff's going to fall out, and it's going to be hard. It's probably also going to be hard to hang on to part of it and let some of it go. It's like I'm going to have to let all this go and admit that I'm different from these people. And I I don't want to minimize the friendships that you have, but I think you're going to find that you're going to have a hard time relating to those
Mhm.
people. I have family members that are in that stuff, that believe stuff. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole they go because I don't want to know, honestly. But siblings and things where I don't find that I have anything in common with them. We don't have a common thread that we can even have conversations around. They're out. They're living in a different reality from me, and I can't compromise that in order to try to maintain some kind of relationship with them. I haven't cut them off
Mhm.
or anything. They haven't cut me off. We would talk, if they called me, I would talk to them. If I called them, they would answer and talk to me. But we don't because we have nothing to talk about of substance other than the weather and how are the kids and, surface stuff, which is fine, but it's not really what you build a relationship around.
Yeah.
So I would rather have a few friends who are quality, like Joe said, and substance and depth than a number of friends who are not, who are surfacey, because life's too short for that stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But it's yeah, this would be hard, but I can understand and hear what you're saying. Like, it's been hard for me to just, at first, after I got done with math, I'm just thinking, okay, maybe I was crazy to say all of them were, maybe only a few. Like, to begin with, what I believed was that all, like, celebrities were a part of some type of satanic cult, blood cult or sex cult or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I talked with Matt, and it made a lot of sense on how that couldn't be true, because there's celebrities like Mel Gibson, Tyler Perry, who are as devout Christian as you can come.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like,
What got you
so you're not,
questioning? What got you to call in to talk to Matt in the first place?
it's just, in general, it's just like, as I got older, I started, like, this started back when I was like in high school. As I got older in high school, I started to like move away from just going to church every week and like questioning things. Started questioning a lot of things, and like, but then eventually I started going down a rabbit hole of just questioning even things that made sense, like questioning whether or not the earth was really flat, was really round, was really a globe, questioning on the moon landing happening, just a bunch of conspiracy theories. And since, well, a bunch of my friends were also doing it and we were impressionable kids, it kind of just stuck with us for a while.
Gotcha.
Got it. Yeah.
Well, what's changed
Yeah.
for you?
Well, in a sense, I start to just grow up and see things like a few celebrities. Well, I guess I could call them celebrities I knew or went to school with, and I still talk to. They didn't seem like part of some cult or anything. So I'm like,
Oh,
does that
yeah.
really make sense?
Mhm.
That doesn't really make sense. So then I just started, but I didn't have anyone to talk to about this really. So I decided to call Matt after seeing a few videos about Owen Morgan and seeing him on the line one time. And I feel like Matt was probably the best one to really shock me out of my bad
Yeah.
way of thinking.
Yeah. 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 Owen was actually on my show last week, so he's also a good one to break that bubble. But yeah, Matt's probably as good as anyone at shocking you out of something and really appealing to logic because things like that are illogical, you know. Um, but yeah, good for you, man, for
Yeah.
allowing yourself to challenge some ideas that, especially when everyone in your peer circle is holding on to those things. It takes, like I said, it takes a lot of courage to step outside and look around and say, wait a minute, does this make sense?
It's a very brave thing to do.
Thank you. Like, do you have any tips on how I could maybe talk to a few of them and make them try to question it themselves, or to probably at least try to seek outside thoughts from other people?
You know what you might do is have them watch that video of the show that you called into. Was it last week you called in? Was it on the Sunday show or the Hang Up? What was it?
Oh no, it was the hang up.
Just pull up that video and watch it with them. And if they will, ask them to, but ask them because rather than you trying to appeal to them with, they might just say, well, you've somebody got to you. And they may still say that, but have them watch it and then just break down the arguments with them. Ask them, okay, here's what Matt said. What do you think about what he just said? That might be helpful.
Bluntness does work for them a little bit more, so someone like Matt would work probably better for them.
Yeah.
More instead of like me when I try to I guess ease them into it. I'm not very confrontational, so
yeah,
I could be so they can. I don't want to say talk over me, but I'm bad at debating, being put on the spot in terms of debating. I can stumble over my words a bit. It could be. I wouldn't get my as well as I hope.
Yeah, and you're still processing a lot of this. You're still walking your way out of it. So it might be easy for them to talk down to you in that way. But if you have something that you can point them to listen to and then talk about it, or even better yet, if they're adamant about it, just say, why don't you call and talk to him and see what he says to you? Present your arguments to Matt or Jimmy or somebody on the line. Have him call into my show. We'll talk to him about it. I'm not as good as Matt and Jimmy and Forrest and those guys, but if they're anyone who's really firm in their ideas or beliefs should not be afraid to have someone challenge that. What are you afraid of?
I think one of them called into was it? It was another atheist talk show. It was one I think Matt was on a few years ago, from what I could see. Yeah,
well, he was
I think
on the
one of them called
experience for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of them called into there was really aggressive, and afterwards he said they were just pretty much with one ear in and 1 ear out the other.
They said that the host was or the caller was?
Not the caller. One of my friends. He's probably the deepest in it of all of us, but he is probably the strongest believer out of all of us of it. I think I might have a few. I think I might have at least one that's willing to probably listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I hope they are.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, they may not listen. They may be too closed-minded or too dogmatic in their position. And I have found with people like that, you just have to move on until they're ready to listen. don't waste too much time and energy on someone who's just, like you said, things are going in one ear and out the other.
All right. Thank you for taking my call, and you've helped me deal with it a little bit. You helped me set a little bit of my nerves aside.
Well, good.
And,
And just know this, that there are, like Joe said, there are other people out there. There's community and relationship out there apart from what you've known. When I said earlier that I'd lost a lot of my friends, I did, but I've gained so many more.
Yeah.
And the depth of the relationships based around shared ideology and truth and what's real is so much richer and so much better than what I had before. So you'll find that too. Don't worry.
all right. Thank you. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the show, and also Happy New Year.
Same to
Thank
you,
you.
DeAndre. Thanks for calling, and thanks for having that courage and reaching out. And we appreciate people like you, and you're doing good stuff. Keep asking those questions.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you too. It's good to chat with you, DeAndre.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bye.
Take care, bud. Bye. Doing good work. Doing good work, Matt. Good work.
I feel like Matt's the person to have some of those conversations. I'm so not, like he is. I appreciate how Matt is.
Yeah, so much so. Let's talk to we'll take another call here in a minute. 720-619-2288. We have lines open, and remember to get your super chats in. $5 or more. We will read it on the line, and Joe's leg will grow back.
Scientists have said it is not impossible.
Are you feeling anything? Because I know some super chats are coming in. Are you feeling anything?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe it's phantom sensation. I couldn't tell you. We'll know by the end of the show.
My ALS is feeling a little better, I don't know.
I'm just going to completely guilt people into sending in super chats.
And buying coffee mugs. So,
yes, exactly.
Or whatever mug. Whatever you want to put in the mug. It doesn't have to be coffee.
Miraculous healings are real. It's just with super chats.
That's it. Let's talk to Dylan. They in Florida. You're on the line with Dave and Joe. What's on your mind, Dylan?
Hello. So, sort of my question is kind of came up today, and I was thinking about it. Sort of how to strike a balance between being independent, but also the best time to ask for help whenever you're disabled. Because I feel like a lot of the times I've become hyper independent, so I don't ever see a good opportunity to ask for help, and I don't know when I'm asking for too much help, so I just don't want to be a burden to my friends and family. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so. Joe, your thoughts? I know you've dealt with stuff like this.
Gosh, yeah. I feel like that is an internal dialogue that I would argue most of us dealing with any kind of disability have, that not wanting to feel like a burden. And I don't know if this resonates for you, Dylan, but also I feel like admitting, I'll put that in quotes, admitting I need help felt so difficult for such a long time, and still does in some moments because it's an ever ongoing process. I will say that one thing that I've learned a lot, especially in the past year, is that with people who genuinely care about me and love me, it's never, they don't treat me like a burden when I freaking finally ask for help. It's like they've been looking for a way to support me. And they're like, if you would just tell me what you need, I would be happy to do it for you. I think, you said you don't feel like you can ask for help often because you're so hyper independent? How does that play out in your life? Like, does no one know that you ever need help? How do you determine that for
Uh,
yourself?
Usually I try to be a little more subtle. Like, I mean, like a kind of dumb example is just trying to put an online application for a new job. And whenever I mentioned, oh, I don't have a resume, my mom and my sibling kind of looked at me as if I had just had a third head. It was just like, if you just go on Indeed, you can set it up super easy. As if, and I just didn't realize that that was an option or even a question I could ask, really, to make things easier. Um, so it's hard to even like ask a question on what I need help with sometimes, because more
Mhm.
of my
Hmm.
stuff is like ADHD and just not. And
Mhm.
anytime there's a barrier, it's forcing myself to get past an additional barrier to do a task or do something that I need to get just done in general. And just it like even just forming a question is kind of hard. So if I do have a need of help, like if I just need assistance with anything, I just sit there and sit there and sit there until like I have to do it. Um,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and like I think for one of the biggest things is I haven't gotten my ID updated since it expired in 2019 because the entire process of it I need to get help with because I can't drive.
Yeah.
I have I'm not able to drive. And it's kind of expensive in Florida just to get everything changed because mine was
Mhm.
the one I got was out of state because I was in school for out of state stuff. So it's like it's just a lot of needing help for just a big task. And so I've just been putting it off for so long,
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
Do
that's
you feel guilt, or go ahead, Dave, go for it.
no. You go, Joe. I'll finish up. I'll wait.
I was just going to ask, do you feel, what do you feel like is the biggest thing that stops you from asking for help? Is it that, like you said, it's difficult to kind of like form the question? Do you feel guilt or shame around asking, or what does that process look like for you or feel like?
I think it's mostly just kind of shame of feeling
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
mostly
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
because mine's more mental
Yeah.
stuff. So it's just I feel like I'm so stupid because I don't know how to do adult stuff, right, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I, No, that makes perfect sense, and it's a horrible feeling, because you're not dumb, right? Like, you're absolutely not, but I understand that feeling. It's not the same thing, but I have a neurological condition and get a lot of migraines, and, it shuts down the way that I think, so often like, I can't form words, I can't form sentences, I'll try to, like, interact with people, and I'm like, I feel so stupid right now because I cannot do the thing, like, that my brain needs to do. It's it's I understand that it's a very tough feeling. It's a tough place to be in. Dave, what were you gonna say? What would you add in here?
Well, the difficulty here that I think both of you are mentioning is some disabilities are obvious. When I'm
Yes.
out in my wheelchair, it's an obvious thing, and people look at me differently. They want to help. They open a door. They get out of the way. They do whatever because it's right there in front of them. If your disability is invisible and people can't see it, it adds an extra layer of confusion, of guilt, of shame, of people judging you because they can't see what you're struggling with, and so it's not as obvious. Like Joe with your foot, with your leg being
Yeah.
missing, they can see that and have sympathy and empathy for that, but they can't see the neurological condition, so they don't have as much
I
empathy for it.
I'll just add in there that, when I lost my leg, it was so messed up for so long, right? But when it was finally off, there was almost a sense of relief because no one questioned it anymore, and I didn't have to explain it.
Exactly,
When
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
invisible, it is so much harder because of like, it can be so much harder because there's that additional element of, like, explanation or people not understanding or not seeing it, that is really hard. Sorry, Dave, I just wanted to throw that in there, that yeah,
Well, that's
invisible
no,
stuff is
that's
rough.
exactly. And I see mine has I've got the kind of thing that the disease that progresses. So it's more obvious now than it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I still had ALS 4 years ago, but you couldn't
Yeah.
see it as evidently as you see it now with the way I walk and the way I can not use my hands very well. And it's getting, it's getting worse, but it's also getting more obvious. I'm thinking of a time back when I was traveling a lot and before I could when I could still travel by myself and go when I was going and traveling to speak and things like that. And I'd be at an airport, and there was a time I was at an airport, and I was going through the security line, and I was having to get things out of my pocket to go through the security line, um, and my hands were failing me, but I could still do a lot of things. But in that on that day, I was trying to get my wallet out of my back pocket, and I just couldn't get my hands to work. I struggled with it for probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes, felt like 20 minutes. But I
Yeah.
realized, okay, I'm not gonna get this out. And so there was a lady there in the line next to me, and she was digging. She'd thrown her boarding pass in the trash accidentally, and she was trying to get it out. And so I said something about it, "Did you throw your pass away?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." And so, I had made a friend there in my mind. So no, actually I hadn't. But so I did a really creepy thing, and I said, "I hate to ask you this, but can you get my wallet out of my back pocket?" And she did. She didn't run screaming for security. She got it out
Just
and handed it to me. And I simply what I learned to do early on is I just say, "I have ALS and my hands don't work well." And
Mhm.
that's usually enough. But, a lot of people not everybody knows what ALS is. So I'll throw in Lou Gehrig's disease, and everyone goes, "Oh,
Mhm.
oh, what can I do for you? How can I help you?" It changes everything, but it took a minute for me to, um, be okay saying that because I was having to admit to the world that I'm disabled and that I need help,
Mhm.
and that's hard. That's I'm a fiercely independent person and have been since I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And for me to admit that I need help, that I have a problem, even if you can't see it, I'm going to tell you that I do. And most people believe me when I tell them, who would make that up, you know?
Yeah.
But before it was obvious, there was another time some guys were putting up a tent at a race, and I was there, and I wasn't helping them because I couldn't. By this time, I really couldn't do much with my arms at all. But again, unless you're watching me closely, you couldn't see that.
Right.
Um, and one of the guys said, "Hey, a little help, maybe?" And I said, I'm sorry, I, I I can't. I have ALS."
Yeah.
And he felt horrible because he actually lost a friend to ALS a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
And he was making a snide comment at me, and he didn't mean anything by it, but we had to have that interaction because I didn't have any other way to tell him that I wasn't helping him because I couldn't. And it bonded us in a way.
Mhm.
There was a connection there over around this disease that we shared in different ways. So the challenge, Dylan, as you posed early on, is how to ask for help. Um, the balance between independence and asking for help. It's just it's a dance that we do because
Yeah.
and it's not always perfect. We're not always going to get it right. But I think Joe made a great point earlier. People want to help. And anyone who knows I have ALS or anyone who sees me now struggling to walk or struggling to pick something up, they're not judging me. And if we can just be honest about our condition and vulnerable, which is hard. I know it's hard. Then we give people the opportunity to help us because that's what they want to do. We're not a burden to them. I've felt that way before, and I've said to people, it feels like I'm a burden to you, and they feel horrible when I say that, and I shouldn't say it because I know I'm not. If they care for me, I
Yeah.
know I'm not.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like I am, and it's just navigating this difficult part of being disabled. It's hard. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. But I just try to hold on to the knowledge that I know is true is that people that care about me, or even strangers, they want to help.
Mm.
And again, my disability is more obvious than yours, Dylan. So it's
Mhm.
maybe easier, or people maybe are more willing to help someone whose disability is obvious rather than someone whose is invisible like yours, and people can tend to judge you, and I'm sorry about that because they shouldn't, because we don't know what people are struggling with that we see.
Mhm.
If whether they look healthy or normal or any other word we want to use, they may not be. They may be struggling just to get out of bed, and we don't know that, so we can't be quick to judge. I said a lot of
And
things.
yeah. I'm glad you did it. But I was just gonna add one other thing as you were talking. Dylan, another thing that one like concrete thing that I found helpful, and I don't know if this would resonate with you or not, but is sort of setting the stage for asking for help before I actually need it. As in having conversations with people who are close to me when um like, for instance, with my brain stuff, like when it's a better day or when I'm not actively needing something, or just being like, hey, I've been diagnosed with PTSD, and sometimes it makes things difficult and I don't know how to talk about that yet. So I'm going to send you a few articles, and if you could read about those and maybe ask me questions
Mm.
sometimes, or like maybe open the opportunity for me to be like, yeah, actually that would help, or something like that, instead of waiting until the moment when I'm like, oh shit, I need to ask for help and I don't know how to, or I feel awful about it. But kind of setting that up for myself and the people who care about me and love me in advance, like having those conversations, and kind of setting it up that way if you feel like that might help.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, me and my sibling kind of been doing that with my mom because we definitely get our ADHD from our mom.
Oh
Like
yeah.
even going to Walmart, I'll joke that I'm my mom's emotional support dog because I love crowds, but she fucking hates them. She hates Walmart so
Yeah.
much she calls it Hellmart.
Yeah.
But I'll go with her a lot of the times just to kind of distract her. Be like, hey mom, feel this really soft blanket I just found. Like, ooh, this candle smells good. Like, kind of like
Yep,
almost being
got
a distraction.
That's a good
Wise
idea.
choice.
I uh,
Have
I feel
you
sometimes
had those kinda
with
Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry.
Go
Oh,
ahead, I'm sorry.
I just sometimes with mental health stuff, it's also a spectrum of the worst thing is, oh, you're faking it, but the other worst thing is,
Yeah.
oh, let me help you, you sweet baby, and being
Yes.
infantilized as well. Especially
Yes.
also
Mm.
having autism, of just being seen as a child, basically.
Mm. Yeah,
And
the
like,
Mhm.
I know I'm
infantilization that
young
comes
and I
with
have a
that.
baby face, but I promise I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how
So
it's yeah, like the fear is on those 2 ends of, either "I don't believe you," or "Yeah, I believe you and let me baby you," none of which feel good.
yeah,
Like
no.
yeah.
Have you had those conversations with people close to you, Dylan, so that so that there's kind of the preview preparation, like Joe said? You feel like you've done that enough so that they uh, are aware, and even talking to them about striking the balance between independence and assistance, and letting them know that you struggle with that personally.
I think I have some stepping stones in place, but I don't with with my mom and my sibling, I don't think I've really opened up that much with it, just because it's still, we're all adults now and trying to figure out our relationship of, there was a lot of shit growing up and there's still some resentment of it because we're all undiagnosed, living in the same household and not sure how to react or what was normal kind of thing. So I think I'm having the stepping stones there, but I don't think it's just there yet. If that makes
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, having stuff undiagnosed, there's another layer there of guilt with, if we treat someone a certain way because of their behavior, and then we come back later and find out, oh, that behavior was because of XYZ.
sense.
There can be a lot of guilt associated with that, wishing, that I'd have been more patient or that I would have understood better. And I think, again, just talking about all that, just getting it out on the table, forgiving people. I forgive you, mom, sister, whatever. You didn't know. You couldn't have known. So that's not on you. Just be kind to yourself. You were doing the best you could with the knowledge you had. And now you have more knowledge, so let's do better. Let's do differently. The Maya Angelou quote, do the best you can do until you know better. And then when you know better, do better.
Yeah.
And, give
Yeah.
each other room to grow and to change and to forgive.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with you, Dave, about people wanting to help. And I found I don't know if it was so much a poem as just a shouting into the void of, people love you a lot more than you think they do. Like, even
Yeah.
strangers, you see
Yeah.
somebody's hair and you think that they're beautiful. You see somebody that you just met, you see somebody that did a kind gesture to somebody else. And I don't think many people realize how much love there really is, especially with
That's so
even
true.
just
That's
strangers.
so true. Yeah. People want to help. You're right. That is so true. And just remind yourself of that as often as you need to. People love you more than they think. There are more kind people in the world than there are mean people. And if we give
Yeah.
people a chance to act on that instinct, they will. And we just have to let that happen and not feel like I've got to handle this myself. A lot of times it's just
Yeah.
my
I
pride.
think it's just, kindness is so much more quiet than hate, is all it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's so true. That's a really good statement. You should put that on a T-shirt. Actually,
Oh, yeah, if we get
like
a
that a lot.
moderator version, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Kindness is much quieter than hate. It's so true. The hate gets all the news, though. The hate gets all the headlines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Well,
I'll get back
our
to
pleasure. And
doing in chat and help.
I thank you for calling in, Dylan. And it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable like this, and
Yeah.
and
And sorry if you
embrace
hear
what
me
you're struggling.
sniffling. I've just been a crier today.
That's
That's
okay.
I
You don't
think
have to
it's a
apologize
beautiful
for
thing
that.
to cry, Dylan.
It is indeed. It is indeed. So just keep doing the best you can do. Be kind to yourself and embrace the truth that is that people want to help and they want to be kind.
Thanks for calling,
Thank
Dylan.
you, guys.
Thanks,
You
Dylan.
too.
Have a good one. So much tougher when it's invisible. Your
Gosh,
statement,
it
Joe,
is.
about how almost it was a relief for the leg to be off. I mean, people
Yes.
would think that's crazy unless they've
Yeah.
experienced it.
There was a very it was tangible. There's so much energy. It's exhausting having to explain things, justify it, have people question you.
Mhm.
Or even if I'm asking for help, having to sort of have a spiel for it, right? When I lost my leg, it's like, hey, I need accommodation for this thing. Or like, yes, actually, I do need to board early and I'm wearing shorts so you can see I have a prosthetic. Like, there aren't questions the way that
Yeah.
there used to be. It was so much. I mean, there was obviously a lot of things that were very difficult to deal with and other adjustments when it comes to that aspect of things. Having a visible disability, even with
It's
like
so
all
funny.
of the weird stuff that might come in public, right? Still so much mentally there was a relief. Invisible stuff is so hard.
It's I'm thinking again of another time I was in an airport and I was in a wheelchair because this
Yeah,
is maybe a year ago. And as you know, if you're in a wheelchair, you go to the front of the line, you get on the plane first.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
you get all you get to find your seat, you get to do all that. Um, I was sitting I was sitting up near the front of the gate and just waiting, for boarding. And I could see this lady look and my legs ALS is interesting. It affects different
Yeah.
muscles differently. So I can't really walk well or stand very long. I can walk short distances, but but I can sit in a wheelchair and actually cross my leg. So I can put my leg over, and sit there with a crossed leg.
Yes.
And I saw this lady looking at me, and I just could read her mind. That
You could
fucking
just see
faker.
what's happening, like,
I know what
what
he's doing. That fucking liar. He's not disabled. He's got a wheelchair so I can get on the plane first. I
exactly,
could
like,
just see her I could just see her thinking. And I didn't say anything. I didn't, it wasn't
no,
a
it's not worth
long
it,
it wasn't
you
a long
know?
glare or anything. It's just this brief moment I saw her look down at my legs and I thought, "Oh, I know what's going on here." I should have
I
said, "Back of the line, lady."
when I yeah, yeah, seriously. When I, like, lost my leg, there's kinda, like, the mental choice of, is this something I'm always gonna cover all the time, or is it something that I'm okay with people seeing? And one of the biggest influences on being like, "No, I'm gonna wear shorts as often as possible," like, I cut my leggings off so I have access to my leg, but also so people can see it. And it subconsciously and consciously, a part of that is so that, people aren't looking at me funny, or so if I ask for
Mhm.
help with something, there's just the assumption of like, "Oh, yeah, clearly." Yeah, so yeah, that's funny about the airport, though, I totally get that. I've had my friend, a good friend of mine will wear jeans sometimes, but she has a prosthetic leg, and she'll park in the handicap parking, and then she'll get
Oh,
out
yeah.
being, like, this young, healthy-looking, woman, and people will come up to her all the time and be like, "What are you doing?" And then she'll take her leg off and be like, "Am I disabled enough for you?" Like,
Yeah. Is that enough? You want more? You want me
yeah,
to take an arm
exactly,
off?
like
But
exactly.
does she is she able to walk? I mean, does her gait look normal because she's been able to master that?
Mostly, right? Yeah, like, yeah, and
Yeah.
same with mine where we both look mostly like, if we're trying.
Yeah. Well, I was able to get a handicap pass. Well, you get it automatically with ALS.
Oh,
But like I
yeah,
said,
yeah,
for the longest time, my ALS wasn't that evident. And so
yeah,
I almost felt guilty
yeah,
at times for parking in the handicap spot because I didn't really need to. I mean, I was still driving myself and I
yeah.
could get out and walk and do all the things everyone else does. And I thought, I, but I quit worrying about that after a while, especially if it
I
was raining.
yeah.
I got ALS. I'm gonna take advantage of this.
Yeah, 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 it's just yeah, you might as well, right?
Right.
I think I kinda came to terms with that where, like, if it's gonna help me, even if it's not the worst thing, even if my leg isn't absolutely on fire that day, if I'm okay, if it's gonna make it a little bit easier for me, like, do it. If it was gonna make it a little bit easier for you, I'm glad you did it, because why the hell
Yeah.
not?
Take the wins when you get them.
Exactly.
It's tough enough. It's tough enough to deal with stuff on a regular basis. So yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
So we sorry if you didn't get through on the calls tonight. I don't go as long. I don't know if you don't know this. I can go about an hour and a half, and then I get tired. But
Yeah,
so we'll
absolutely.
cut the calls, and read some super chats and close it out. But if you didn't get through tonight, just call back next week or to one of the other shows, one of the other amazing shows on the line, and then we will try to get your call at the next opportunity. Are you ready to read some super chats? We might have a few here.
I
You go
sure
first.
am. All right. From Philip. I feel like I recognize your username, Philip. I had an emergency where I was diagnosed 10 minutes before surgery. Oh gosh, and told there was a 5% survival rate. Surviving that experience gave me perspective. Carpe diem and just breathe. Stay an atheist. Thank you, Philip. We appreciate it.
You didn't return to God when you got that news? Good for you. No, thank you for that. Thank you for that, and I'm glad that, first of all, that you survived that, and then secondly, that
Yeah.
it gave you a new perspective, because oftentimes that does. $10 from Cyber Kid. I'm gonna just say that's how that's pronounced. I think that's maybe right.
I think that's right.
Love you, Dave. Thank you, Cyber. Appreciate that and your support.
$9.99 from Israel. New leg for Joe. Hey guys, it might come back a little bit. I really appreciate all of your
That's
sacrifice on my
awesome.
behalf. Thank you, Israel.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
New leg for Joe. That's awesome. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Fun fact, the idiom pulling your leg comes from these hucksters. Oh, I just want Joe to go now and scream when they pull her leg off. Love you guys.
I didn't
So
realize that the pulling your leg thing came from that. Oh
didn't
my
know
gosh,
that.
that's really interesting.
I didn't know that phrase had been around that long. Or that no,
Yeah.
I didn't know that the hucksters had been around that long for this growing your leg nonsense. You should go to one of those healing services, Joe, and when they
I
start
really
tugging on your
should.
leg, just let him pull it right off.
I'll just have it
Take him the
unpinned
fuck
so it
out.
actually comes out. One of my friends, his grandma would do that to any friend who came over. She'd be like, "Can you help me get my shoes off?" And they'd like
Oh
go
my
to pull
god.
one off and they'd pull her leg off and she'd traumatize all of his friends. Anyways.
Oh my god, that's funny. This is
It is
yours.
my turn. Okay. Joe, I hope you're recovering well from that last nerve surgery. Thank you. Dave, I love the work that you do. It's weird how prayer never does anything verifiable like growing limbs back. There is, in fact, a whole website called whygoddoesn'thealamputees.com, I believe, that talks all about that. Thank you so much, Klekvinar. I'm sure I said that
It
wrong, but I
does indeed.
tried.
In fact, that was one of the first things online I looked at when I
Me
started my
too.
deconstruction. It was I
Before I was
heard
an
about that
amputee,
and I went,
actually.
"Really? Oh, wow."
Yeah.
But it's a pretty clever website, and
Yeah.
yeah, God can heal a migraine, but he can't grow your leg back, so
Yeah.
not that
Exactly.
great. $5 from Sad Doggo. Too nervous to call. No, don't be nervous. We're nice. We're
I
nice.
promise.
Especially Joe. I lose my shit sometimes, but Joe never does. Maybe
Oh,
next time. Anyway,
never.
too nervous to call, but have a burning question. Should atheists investigate all religions to see if they believe in one, or is it enough to be skeptical? I think skepticism to me, religion to me is all about belief in a supernatural deity that governs us. Any religion that's not that, I don't really care. I really don't, like universalists or really progressive religions. I'm
Mhm.
only concerned about the ones that seek to control our behavior. Um, Other than that, I don't see any reason to believe in anything that I can't verify with evidence. What about you, Joe?
I'm about to sneeze, so I might have to mute the mic. No, I think it passed. I think we're good. I don't I think that's something I'm not necessarily torn on, but I don't think that there is any harm necessarily in investigating religions. It's fascinating, right? Like what people believe, what has evolved over centuries, what different societies and communities have created is very interesting to me. So it's something I like looking into, but I approach all of that with a lot of skepticism.
Hmm.
Like an open mind to be like, oh, interesting. Okay, right? But staying very skeptical, I
More
have
from a
found to be
curiosity
important.
stand. Yeah, more
Yes.
from just a
Yeah.
curiosity to learn about religions and study religions. Yeah, I mean it is an interesting
Yeah.
topic. I mean the formation of religion, the history of religion, how different religions formed. Almost all of them
Yeah.
formed out of another one. They
Yeah.
they came out of each other, kind of thing. It's you.
Okay, from CW. Oh, we missed it, but CW said, "Great show, something, something, Joe and Dave." We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
pretty much that. Thank you so much. $10 from Panda Heart. Thank you, Panda. Boy, that was quick on the. We got to be quicker, I guess. They're
I
pretty
know, I
harsh with us.
know. No dilly-dallying here, guys. From the Raven. Happy New Year, y'all. Be sure to consensually slap that like button. It's booty. Real good. Jimmy, go take a majestic destroyer flame from Madara Uchich. I don't know half these references.
Oh my God, Raven creates different insults for Jimmy each week. I don't know
Oh,
how long.
nice.
Do you spend the week thinking of these, or do they just pop into your head? I'm just very creative ways to insult Jimmy.
The references to wrestling.
Wrestling, I see.
Got it. Okay, okay. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Majestic destroyer flame. That must be a wrestling move. $5 from Professor Sergeant Jams. Hello, Joe from Pueblo. Somehow ran across your shorts 6 months to a year ago. Glad to see you with the skeptic community. Awesome. There's a
Thanks
fan
for
there.
being here. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. All right. From Bass 100. Dave, you did mention Dr. Maya Angelou's quote about doing better when you know better to mitigate guilt regret. It's helped me when noticing unkind self-talk and being present. Joelle, I think that is
Awesome.
I'm so glad that that has helped. Way to go, Dave. And
Yeah.
also,
Well, thank
very
you.
helpful quote.
Yeah. Thank you. It has helped me a lot too, because that's like, I mean, I opened the show with feeling, kind of mentioning a bit of regret about the course my life took when I made that decision 50 years ago to follow Jesus. But I don't really look back on it with regret. I was doing the best I could with what I had and made that decision based on what I thought was the right thing to do. And now I know better. That's why the name of my book is called Childish Things, because it's a reference to a scripture in First Corinthians. When you are a child, you think like a child, but when you become a man, you put away
Yes.
childish things. And that's kind of what I did.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Hmm.
I like that a lot. Is it my turn or
$5
yours?
from, I don't know. I think it might be
Yeah,
mine. I forget. It's not that hard with just two of us. It's kind of weird that we
right?
$5 from Joe Pellerito. Hey, Joe, my friend, Carpe Diem. Thank you. Thank you for that, buddy.
From CW, great show, Dave and Joe. I love your show. I also love this show, and I'm very grateful that they have me on. So thank you, Dave.
Oh, we love having you. $5 again from Monkey at Typewriter. Dylan had a great call. One quibble. Love is quieter than hate. Maybe the way you do it. Heart show, y'all. Yep, love is quieter than hate, and so is kindness. Absolutely. I think that's an actual
Yeah.
quote. Love is quieter than hate.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, come to
Yeah.
think of it, but that he's right. Great call from Dylan. So I'm glad we got to
Yeah, I really
talk to
like
him.
talking to him. Yeah.
Hmm. And that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you for calling. Thank you for being in the chat. Thank you for Morgan as our producer tonight, for the call screeners. Go get your mug at merch. Oh shit. Merch line merch.
Line, hold on. Yeah, I think that's what it
blindmerch.com.
is.
And get your mug there. Support the show, patreon.com/call the line. And as we close out, oh, there's another one. Go ahead and get that one.
Oh, wait.
I did that.
Oh,
This is
here we
yours.
go. Hi, Dave, and same to Joe, too. I've been watching Footless Joe channel for about a year now. Thank you. And I've learned a lot about making life adjustments. I called a couple of months ago about my Parkinson's. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah,
Thank
Richard.
you, Richard.
Thank you for watching and for your support. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
And that's it.
seriously.
And that's it, I think. As we
And
close the
that
show
is
out,
it.
our patron producers. And watch the shows coming up this week. And we'll see you next week. And Joe, look forward to having you on again.
Oh, I absolutely will be on again, Dave. Thank you. Maybe less Christmassy next time. We'll see.
We'll see. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Dang it, puppies.